Hello, and welcome to another episode of Charlie's Desk. Today's episode is about keeping time non-visually, not only before the age of the smartphone, not only before the age of the talking watch, not only before the age of the wristwatch, but in the age of the pocket watch. And that is going to enable us to talk about a bunch of things that I want to talk about. And because we're talking about clocks and the clock face, I'm going to do my best to provide all the information with clock face directions. So, since what I like doing is talking about what's on the desk first, at 12 o'clock we have a little magnetic dish with some broken pocket watches in pieces, little cogs and sprockets, and they're really intricate. They're hard to describe. So there's a little magnetic dish so they don't go flying all over the place. And then at 2 o'clock we have a toolbox of mine that is turquoise and pretty banged up and bent and rusty, and it has the tools in it that I use most frequently, screwdrivers and stuff like that, measuring tapes. And then I guess it's kind of from like 3 to 4 o'clock I have the Hans Schober ruler that my friend Gabe asked me a great question about, and I'm actually going to make a whole other video about tactile measuring. So look out for that one. But I got the Hans Schober, the best. Then down here at 6 o'clock, I have this little tool that I'm going to be using. No idea what it's called. I got a watch tool kit. Thank you to Marco, friend of the show, friend of the desk, for giving me an unsolicited donation to the Charlie's Desk project, whatever that is. And so I have this this little watchmaking toolkit, and in it at 6 o'clock is this little knife-like thing. The handle is the size of a knife, but the blade is like tiny. It's like not that sharp, and it's curved, and it's like an inch. And you use it to sort of wedge into different watch spaces and open things like you would a clam or a mollusk. Okay, so that's at 6 o'clock. Then at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock is this watch tools kit. It is like black nylon thing that zips shut, and it has sort of straps for all these tiny little screwdrivers and pliers, a little hammer. It was only $10. A lot of stuff I have no idea what it is. I've used the little screwdrivers, I've used the pliers, I've used the hammer, I use this little knife thing. And then I have up at 9 o'clock just a little clipboard. And I don't even have a pen, so it's irrelevant. And then someone asked me a question, is what are those two things up at the top? They're the legs of the tripod. So I guess those would be at those are really at 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock. And then in the center, I have basically like just a brown piece of wood, a little board. And on it are 5 different, either watches or components of a watch. And then when I zoom in on it, then it will just be, those watches, which I will do as I talk about them in more detail. But I feel like Charlie's Desk, it's really important to describe, what's on the desk. But now that that is done, I am going to zoom in to kind of the subject today. Make sure I do a, okay job. Give me a second. I gotta move this. yeah, I would say that's good enough. So there's 5 different watches or watch components on the board right now. They are lined up sort of like the points along a W. The largest, there's 3 that are the same size, and they are, let me see if I can measure this right. Oh wow, almost 2 inches, 2 inches wide. There's a different measurement for that in watch culture, which is intense. And then I have some like broken watch pieces that are like an inch wide, and these are pocket watches. So one of the things for people who maybe lose their sight is having access to what time it is. It's sort of an important thing that is mostly displayed visually everywhere. So you have your kind of standard watch of the day, right? An analog watch, they pretty much just had hour and minute hands. I think second hands were kind of a more expensive feature. So you have your hour and your minute hand. But yeah, it's important to know what time it is. So I wanted to look at the products that, this kind of takes us back into before World War II, which is really a different era. And the object I want to talk about today, which is now in my hands, is this pocket watch from RNIB, which is the Royal National Institute of the Blind. And I'm just using that little knife thing to open up the front face of it, and now you can see. And the 12 o'clock is oriented towards the top of the screen. The 3 to the right, 6 to the bottom, 9 to the left. And it's actually something I've taken for granted a little bit with some of the kids. Since there's fewer examples of tactile watches available, there used to be a lot of wristwatches. People didn't have access to like a tactile model of the clock. So while this works for someone, who had sight and lost it, right? They know how to determine what the time is from this watch, which I'll describe in a little bit. So the way well, first I'll start with the object itself. It is a disc with rounded edges that's about 1 centimeter thick. I guess maybe I should say a little more than 1/4 of an inch and around 2 inches wide. I'll get better with metric later, but my ruler is in inches standard. So you open it up, and the face opens. There's a little hinge that's at one side, and it's very small. It's made with kind of wire to reduce the visual impact. And then on the right side there is, I believe it's called the stem, and it has a little loop that you could put your watch chain on that's tapping against the face of the watch. And then there's this winder, and you can set the time, wind the watch, and set it going. So now I open it up, and so the 12 o'clock position is marked by 3 Braille sized dots in a line. 3 o'clock is marked by 2, 6 by 2, 9 by 2, and all the rest have 1. And then what's cool about this watch is that the hour hand and the minute hand, they're kind of beefed up from the other watch examples. I have this watch here. This is American made in Waltham, Mass. And the numbers on the clock face are in Roman numerals. That would be tough visually. And the arms of the watch, the hands, they're very dainty on this one. On this RNIB, Royal National Institute of the Blind, They're beefed up. They're really cool. And they're different lengths and slightly different shapes. So when you're running your finger around the edge of the watch to try and tell the time, you can locate the tip of the hand with your fingertip. And I think gentleness is key here because you can change the position of the hands. And there's some modern watches that sort of solve that problem. Okay, so the Royal National Institute of the Blind in England. Oh, and then there's the other side of the watch, and this is a really cool side. It opens up, and there's actually two doors on this side. I loosened them up so it wouldn't be so painful. There's one, and you could have an inscription, and then hopefully this one didn't shut permanently like it does sometimes. This one reveals the interior of it, and it shuts very tightly. I'm assuming just like for the protection of it, which is fine and dandy because I guess I want it to be nice, but I guess I'll have to give up. But that's why I have other examples. All right, so I'm gonna put this RNIB watch down. I'm gonna pull up a little example of an American Waltham. This is the movement, I believe, the piece that is just, responsible for moving the hands and telling the time, and then it goes inside a case that, attaches to a chain, and that's your pocket watch. So how to describe the intricacy of this object? So it's a circle, and I think I'll imagine it maybe like a map. And it could even look like a bay. I'm gonna actually rotate it slightly. So yeah, look, it looks like Massachusetts, it's bay. So there's coverings, and then you can see the interior workings peeking through some windows. And if we imagine it as a circular map, the lower portion of this circle and the upper portion of the circle, there's sort of land masses that create a little river, a little channel, and then that channel opens up into a bay on the left side of the circle. And then if you are looking down into the water, you see all these cogs and pinwheels and different things that make the thing tick. So it's a pretty beautiful object. And I've taken apart a couple. That's what I had in the little, so I'll pull out the magnetic basket. Yeah, broken stuff is cheap. So this is a little piece of the covering that you remove. It's kind of like the shape of a talon, actually, or a bird's beak. It's a golden-ish color, brass-like color, but it's flat and it has holes where little tiny screws go through. And then when you uncover that, you have all these tiny workings. Just tiny, delicate structures. A sprocket, I guess it's called, or a cog, right? It's a circle, and it has all these sort of teeth around the side of it, and it spins, and it'll spin another one and another one. And then the spring piece is very cool. Being in the magnet was not good for it, but it's just this delicate strand, this coil that attaches to a wheel. It seems to have these weights kind of screwed into it, so it needs to be balanced, and that's the thing that ticks back and forth. And then there's a little dial on top of the covering piece, right? If it's in the map, like the land mass, and the dial, yeah, I guess you can adjust the tension of the spring. I have no idea. I just took it apart. Yeah, so little tiny delicate, I mean, they're the size of, like, I don't know, bugs' legs, little insects. It's very cool. But let's get back to Royal National Institute for the Blind, and the reason why clock face directions are important in orientation and mobility. I'll zoom in a little bit. for my own sake. Okay. So in orientation and mobility, we use clock face directions in a spatial way. So right ahead of you is 12 o'clock. Right behind of you is 6 o'clock. To your right, 3. To your left, 9. And what's nice about using clock face directions is you can sort of use those gradations in between. At your 1 o'clock, at your 2 o'clock. And this is important for describing, where you're localizing sound. So it's nice to have an example of a tactile watch. And it's nice to have an example of a pocket watch. And it's nice to have an example of a product that was made for people who are blind, so you could know what time it is, because that's, just important for doing your business. And what was so cool about this one is, as I wasn't really sure that it was going to work, but it does. So on the little knob thing, it has 2 positions, in and out. So if I pull it out, or is it, which way is it? Okay, I pull it out and I wind it, I can change what time it is. So I'll just say it is, oh, I can't go backwards. Oh, I can. It's 5 o'clock, right? 5:05. Okay, so I did that, and now I push it in, that's the time I want. And then I twist it a couple times, not too many times. I don't really know. I want to be safe. And then I hope you can hear the ticking, but probably not. I'm holding it up to my ear. Still works. So it's old, it's cool. The Royal National Institute of the Blind was responsible for this product. St. Dunstan's, which provided services to soldiers in England who were blinded, is important in the development of O&M, and they made some pretty cool braillers. And one of the guys who worked at Royal National Institute for the Blind was W. Hanks Levy. And W. Hanks Levy is a pretty important guy in the history of orientation and mobility, because he wrote a dissertation, and I'm having trouble remembering if it's in the late 19th century or the earliest 20th century, but whatever. In World War II, the 2 guys who invented O&M as we know it today, Richard Hoover and C. Warren Bledsoe. His name was Charles Warren Bledsoe, guys. C. Warren Bledsoe, they based their work on the work of W. Hanks Levy. And he talked about cane travel, and cane travel has been a thing for a really long time. But it was formalized in the States, and that's what we know today as O&M. But people who are blind have been traveling without sight for many years, and there's some other cool characters that I'll mention. James Holman, this guy who circumnavigated the globe. He was a British soldier who, I think he was blinded by some inflammatory situation, which can happen. And yeah, so this is, just a way of jumping into the culture and history surrounding blindness and visual impairment. And there's some institutions that have they've brought together some really interesting and creative people, and W. Hanks Levy was one of them, and he's connected with RNIB. RNIB still does stuff today. I actually am going to get some stuff for Charlie's desk that's about moon type. It's the only moon type product that's available on the market today. Moon type, invented by William Moon, is another tactile writing form invented in England, still used probably by some older folks, and because it resembles the Roman alphabet, and you can feel that with your fingers, and that's the language of the eyes, right? The Roman alphabet. It's simplified by William Moon, But as someone said, and I should really look it up, but dots, the language of the fingers is dots. So this cool watch has 3 dots at 12, 2 at 3, 2 at 6, 2 at 9, and 1 at all the rest. And there's lots of pocket watches on eBay. Oh no, what I meant to say is there's lots of wristwatches on eBay, Braille wristwatches, and they seem to be functioning, and it's just kind of cool. And they have like, you could see through glass on them, but then there's a little latch and it opens up and you can feel the Braille. So that's my video. I guess I'll zoom out now. Back to the desk, Tools are all still there. Thank you for watching and for all the feedback. Any questions are totally welcome. I'll try and answer them or make a video about them or adjust my style if that's necessary. Yeah, stay safe out there. Good to be with you. Though we are non-synchronous, it is good to be with you. All right, bye.